Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John North. John Becker is away. We have kind of a unique show today. We have about 10% of the Tennessee Senate sitting with us right now. And I'll introduce you real quick and then we'll get to them in a second. Our special guest is Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally. Welcome, sir. We are so happy to have you.
Glad to be here.
Great to have you. Also, we have State Senator Becky Duncan Massey. Welcome.
Thank you, as always, for being here.
Always glad to have you. And also Senator Richard Briggs.
Glad to be here.
How you doing? It's good to see you.
Doing good.
You guys are busy.
Doing well.
Before we get to that discussion, let's introduce our panelists. We've got to the right Don Bosch, who is an attorney and Democrat. Welcome.
Good morning.
And to his left is Eddie Smith, our Republican and also involved with child help.
Well, good morning,
John. You doing good?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. So as I mentioned, we have 3 state senators here to discuss how things are going in the Tennessee legislature. It was going to be 2, and then we got very, very lucky, and Randy McNally said, sure, I'll come on board. So we've got 3. And it's been a unique and a special time here because he's announced that after serving for many decades the state of Tennessee, at the end of this year, in December, he will be retiring. He's not running again. He is currently the longest serving lawmaker in the legislature. We honor your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's just jump in, and I'll start with you if you don't mind, and you all can respond. We're deep in the middle of the current session, and I reckon you all will probably wrap up, you hope maybe by late April, but how are things going, and what's going to be a good session for you in terms of what gets accomplished?
Well, I think passing a structurally balanced budget,
certainly,
number one.
Yes, sir.
And that's the only thing we really have to do. And I think the governor laid out some good bills that we'll work on and hopefully improve and pass before we adjourn sometime in around April 15th, hopefully.
Becky, what sort of sticks out for you that you'd like to see accomplished?
Well, it's pretty simple. I've been working for a number of years, but more recently on the mental health beds in Knoxville.
We need a place.
And there's a shorter-term solution before the long-term to get about 25 beds above the Impasse Center over at the old St. Mary's site. The Commissioner of Mental Health requested it to the governor in her budget. It didn't get in the first budget. I'm working to try to get it into the supplemental budget, the funding for that.
About how soon will the governor release that supplemental, do you think?
It will probably be around the 7th of April, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, fingers crossed on that. Dr. Briggs?
Well, I think one of the things that we see all of our citizens concerned about is the traffic that we have,
Amen.
Particularly on I-40. We're going to have, we do have a plan. It's a long-term plan to address that problem, but I think we'll be seeing some this year and probably even more next year, coming up with ways to finance our roads differently. Right now it's all coming from the gas tax, or almost all of it's coming from the gas tax. And with the changing hybrid cars, the better gas mileage in the gas cars, we're going to have to find a different way of financing.
We've always been a pay-as-you-go state.
That's right.
We probably have to revisit that.
Those days are over.
Agree.
Don Bosch?
So, morning. Thank you all for being here. Lieutenant Governor, let me start with you. I thought about you coming on this week, and there must be a fountain of youth in the Lieutenant Governor's office, because before you there was Lieutenant Governor Wilder, who was there for maybe 100 years. So, but you worked with a supermajority of Democrats. A majority of Democrats.
No, at first.
All the way back.
At first. Okay.
Think back, at first. Supermajority of Democrats, a majority of Democrats, a majority of the GOP, and now a supermajority of the GOP. What's been the hardest to navigate? Well, I know what the easy answer is, but give us a truthful one.
Well, actually, it's when we were in a minority, Ben actually went to Governor Wilder and told him that he had 12 Republican votes, and Wilder figured out he only needed 4 plus himself, and we had a coalition that lasted until about 2007, I believe. And that part of that was fun. It was a very rough time. The state had hit a recession in 2007, 2008, 2009. That was rough going through, and we were able, I guess the proudest thing I think that we were able to accomplish was regaining our three AAA credit ratings.
So what you're saying is when there was a little bit more bipartisanship, that was an easier time to navigate?
Well, no, not really. I think for me, either one of the four answers would be correct.
Okay.
And so, looking at this, just doing the quick math, there's about 77 years of experience sitting right here, as you all have served in the General Assembly. Becky, you talked a little bit about mental health, but then Rick brought up transportation. Those are two of the biggest things really affecting. So I really want to ask you all's questions, like what are the biggest things that you see that, let's look 5 years down the road. Where do you all want to see investment that you all are going to continue to push over the next couple of years in those areas? Because it's not going away and it's not getting better.
Well, I've actually worked on some national work groups on transportation funding, and really have seen the need not only in our backyard on Interstate 4075, but just knowing that this issue is a challenge nationally, because, like I say, all the newer cars are getting a higher gas mileage. So it's something that's not a sustainable growing revenue source, and our state's growing and the cost of building's growing. So I think we've got to put together a composite system that includes a lot of things. Nothing's off the table as far as I'm concerned. And so I would like to see us have a funding structure in place that is an appreciating revenue source to address the needs.
I want to hear from our other two guests as well, but we've got to take a break. You're watching Inside Tennessee. We'll be back in just a minute. We're back with Inside Tennessee. As I mentioned at the start of the show, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally announced a little bit ago that he plans to make this sort of his last time in the legislature. He'll be retiring after December, and we're very pleased that he could be one of our guests this morning, along with Richard Briggs and Becky Massey. So let's pick up where we left off with the first block. Eddie, you asked the question about sort of two of the biggest issues we are certain to face in 5 years. Dr. Briggs, your thoughts? I think we were talking health, mental health, plus also traffic, transportation.
One thing that we haven't talked about a lot is just where Tennessee ranks with health in general. In the last 15, 20 years, we've been at the bottom in education. We're moving up toward the top. A lot of progress there. We're now ranked as one of the best financially managed states in the country. But one of the areas where we've not moved the needle at all in the last 20 years has been health in general. Every year we get a briefing from the Public Health Service up at East Tennessee State University that has a very, very good department. And we're still in the lower 10 states in general health. There's many reasons for that. We need to make sure that our citizens have access to health. We eat too much of the wrong kind of foods. And this is something for our workforce, for our general health, and even the cost, because that's the biggest part of the budget is TennCare, which is basically health. We're going to have to do something about that at some point, and we just can't always be in one of the worst 10 states in general health.
You sound like you just made a wonderful pitch to go get those federal dollars that we've avoided for years.
Well, there's a rural health initiative right now, and we're going to get quite a few $million on those.
The Obama dollars, as the Obamacare, it's been said that we've rejected just out of principle. That's been really kind of silly, because those are Tennessee dollars that we're not getting back. And I hope you guys would push some of your colleagues, because I know you're a little closer on that issue than some of your colleagues on the right, but I hope you guys would push that issue.
I think we're the only two. We voted for it twice when the Governor Haslam had his thing, and we're one of the few people that did vote on it twice.
I remember, and I appreciate that.
And the problem I have, and don't disagree with Don, but everybody wants to get on talking points, so let's talk solutions. One of the biggest challenges, as you mentioned with TennCare, is around the fact that the state really can't negotiate pharmaceutical prices. I mean, has there been any movement with CMS to try and get it where we can negotiate that? Because just a 10% reduction would see $1 billion+ of cost savings for the state. So What's the movement, even working with CMS, to try and get that?
You know, actually we did. It was just 2 or 3 years ago that we changed how we were able to manage our TennCare program, because we're one of the best managed TennCare programs in the country, and part of that allowed us to be able to get off the federal formulary where you had no place where you had any flexibility on that, and we are making progress on that.
I want to shift gears a little bit. We had great news this week with Southwest coming in, which reminded me about the airport, how important that is to East Tennessee. And there's a bill, a companion bill in the Senate. Cameron Sexton introduced it in the House, which raises the specter of appointments made by the Speaker of the House, leader in the Senate, such as yourself, a couple other folks, to the airport boards that oversee the boards. We know that the legislature, some at least, have sort of tussled over control of B&A, the Nashville airport. Now we're looking at potential legislation where the appointment of who sits on our area, sort of big metro airport boards, would be controlled out of Nashville, if you will. What do you all think about that? And may I start with you, Randy?
Well, I think, first of all, the appointments will, as I've seen the bill, also involve, like the mayor of Nashville and his designee. In this case, it'd be the mayor of the municipality and his designee, along with the tourism director and along with another person appointed by the mayor. There'd be 3 appointments by the governor. Those and then I think 2 by Speaker Sexton, 2 by myself. All those appointments would be people that are located in the area and that have interest in transportation or interest in tourism. And I think I think most boards probably wouldn't change that much. The Nashville board, all those appointments are by the mayor, and it serves multiple counties around it, and there's no one from one of the outside counties. I think with the board in Knoxville, there is somebody that's either from Blount or Anderson that serves on that board.
Becky, how do you see it being received? Do you think it'll go through okay?
I think it'll go through. I think one of the big factors that kind of has got folks interested in it, though, is that the state does give a lot of funding to the airports for expansion. So it's basically to have a say on who, have a hand in the appointments. But I think the way and they've still been working on it a little bit, but I think it does divide the appointments up between the governor, the speakers, and the local municipalities of some sort. And obviously, if it moves in this direction and it does pass, I'm sure we will have input. I'm sure the lieutenant governor will look to us to, some folks that we might know that would be good to be on the board.
Well, Becky, it's not broke right now. When you look specifically at Knoxville, our board's operated very well, done a very good job. We're undergoing a massive expansion that we needed. But it strikes me that the power then shifts really to Nashville. The governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker. The majority of board seats are going to be appointed from those people. And we've just seen, for example, with some of the judicial confirmation things that have gone on, partisanship reigns very heavy. And it's going to take, if that's where the power is, and right now with the supermajority in place, we're going to see municipalities that are more equally balanced politically are going to be straight Republican or near it.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because we have a gazillion boards and throughout all of state government, and they're not all just partisan appointments. They're experts in their fields, and I think there will be local. If we're able to give input for our area, that is local input. And I know it's not broken, but it's also, we've been putting a ton of money into the airports, and they are continually asking for more. So I think it is justifiable. even though it's not broken, I do think it's justifiable with the investment that we put in it, but there will be local input into the decisions.
That's an issue we'll be watching closely. We've got to take another break. We'll be back in just a second. We are hanging with the senators this morning, and Eddie Smith has a question.
So one is transition. Since President Trump has come into office, we've seen illegal immigration drop significantly at our southern border. But there's still a lot of immigration bills working through. I know the White House has been working closely with Speaker Sexton's office, especially around immigration in our K-12 system. Where do you all see that sitting right now, and what do you all see coming out of that over the next couple of weeks and months?
Dr. Briggs?
You know, it's a very touchy question, and there's a lot of bills going through. They may yet be amended. There was some changes on those today, and all I can speak for is, just my personal beliefs on this. First of all, if we ask the average citizen, where are these illegal immigrants coming from? And most people say, well, they came across the southern border. But nearly 50% of the people who came to this country came on visas, and then the visas expired. Some of these people have PhDs in physics and engineering, and they're very well-educated people. So I think we have to be careful on two routes. One, who are we going to deport? And I don't mean this in any demeaning way. Is it going to be tomato pickers, or is it going to be nuclear scientists?
How about anybody with a felony conviction instead?
Well, I think we pretty much agree that the people with felony convictions
We've gone way
are
beyond
a
that,
problem.
though.
The other thing is how big do we want government to be? One of the proposals is that everyone that goes to a hospital, that goes to a school, that goes to a doctor's office, and that's all of us sitting right here, will have to show identification that will be collected and given to the federal government. Do we really want this large program where the federal government is collecting all of this information on us? In general, as Republicans, we've been reluctant to have that sort of information out there.
Less government, not more.
Less government, not more. And this is another big government program that's going to be very expensive, and they're collecting a lot of information on ordinary Americans.
Becky?
Well, I think, to Don's point, the majority of the people here in Tennessee that have been deported, and I think I'm terrible with statistics, but maybe 75% at least have come from the jails. That's where they have found them. I'm all for folks that have committed crimes being deported, because there's multiple reasons there. I've been more sensitive to folks that in our schools, and those kids did not come here illegally. It was maybe their parents or somebody else brought them here. And when we voted on that bill last year, I did vote against it, as Senator Briggs did. I don't remember what you did, but still, it's there's valid points, because for us to budget, we need to know how much we're budgeting for. So the data is good, but I still don't like the school kids being kind of caught in the middle of this.
There is also this question that arose last week about what is the financial impact, say, if schools have to do checking on the kids. The fiscal note, I don't know that reflects it, but it is a cost that would be borne by local school systems. Is that correct, Randy?
That is, and in state law, when we impact local school systems or localities or counties, we do have to provide part of the funding for it. So that's something that we'll send the bill, through the Finance Committee, and there'll have to be an amendment to recognize that cost.
Do you think there's time within the session to come up with whatever that's going to be so that it can get passed?
It's a little difficult right now because there's one bill that the House is for, and the Senate has passed another bill. So I think it'll eventually end up in a conference committee. And in our rules, the conference committees are not limited just to the differences in the bills.
Well, it has not come out of regular committee yet, has it? Has the checking students at the school level their immigration status, has that already come out of the various education committee, whatever appropriate committees it would have to go through?
I think
Well,
it passed the sub
Well,
today.
the Senate passed a version last year. The House did.
I'm
And I
talking about
think
this
the
year,
House, well, there's two different, our bill
There are
is
a
still
number of
alive.
bills.
And so then the House has got the bill that
I
they're
see.
running, and I'm not sure where the status is in the Senate, because I'm not on that committee.
Hope it doesn't go through. It's not a good thing.
Of all of that, what do you think is a for sure, Dr. Briggs? Anything?
You know, I really don't know. And when people talk about for sure, even though you have a bill out there that may do something, these bills are amended so much and can be amended so much. What the final result is depends on what amendments are put on the bill, what amendments pass. So I think it's difficult to say what we're going to end up with.
We are taking another break. It's Inside Tennessee, and we're about to come to the last block of the show. Hey, John North here. We really appreciate you watching. As we do every Sunday, you tell us that you're watching, and it means a whole lot to us. So this is the final block. We have roughly 3 minutes, which will probably go by in a jiffy. Don Bosch.
So a lot of bills about education, a lot of bills about vouchers, a lot of bills about charter schools. We can focus on a bunch, but I want to ask about the religious charter schools. I want to ask where each of you are about state tax dollars going to fund religious-based schools, and if so, what religions are eligible or would be eligible in your minds for charter school money? So, Dr. Briggs, I'll start with you there on the end.
I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not on the education committee. I've not heard any of the debate, and I think I'll just hold opinion until I gather more information. I'm not trying to be evasive. That's just.
Oh, but that's no fun, Dr. Briggs. Becky?
Well, I probably could easily say ditto, because really you have so much coming at you right now with all the different bills. You really have to just laser focus on your two committees that you're on. You know, I'm on health and transportation. He's on transportation and state and local, which he chairs. And then you've got your bills that you're trying to get passed. It really is just really hard to look at what these other bills are at this point.
Well, go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry.
I'm not making any excuses.
No, I understand.
But I think I'm carrying this year 111 bills for this session. Plus, we have close to 400 bills that will go through my committee, and I have a hard time keeping up what's going on in the other committees. You know, with
So,
all of
Randy,
those. So
sort of-
I'll apologize.
The one thing, though, that you asked on which religions, if it passed, would it go to? It'd have to go to any.
That could get really interesting in the legislature.
It could, but
I would hope that it would go to any religion.
I mean, it would have, whether
I
it
hope
be
it
a
doesn't pass,
Jewish, a
but
Christian, or a
Islamic.
Muslim, you know, it would have to go to any of them if it is
You get to
passed.
touch all the committees, Lieutenant Governor.
Go ahead,
What's
Randy.
your opinion?
When the original legislation was passed establishing the charter schools, I put an amendment, and I don't know whether it was my amendment or a committee amendment on, that they could not be religious schools. And since then, you know, the charter schools have done fairly well. They have to be authorized by the local board of education. If they're not, they can be appealed to a state board. But I wouldn't have any problem with good religious charter schools.
Yeah, that word "good" sort of scares some of us, but I think there's a constitutional problem, but we'll see that, I suspect.
Well, and I just want to end, you know, Lieutenant Governor, you've been in the legislature since right before I was born. So thank you for your long service. And John,
And thank you.
I really hope
We
that
all
you'll
want to say thank
yes,
you.
have him back on, because
We
you know,
got
one
about
of the
15 seconds left.
most interesting facts is when he had to wear a wire for the FBI. That's a story that needs to
He'll
be
be
told
back
again.
for that. Hey, listen, we appreciate you
a long
watching. We hope
story.
you have a great day. We'll see you next Sunday here on Inside Tennessee. Take care.